Hello and welcome to Delectable Distractions, the podcast where we talk about all things entertainment and the media that we like to consume, TV, video games, movies, books, all that good stuff. Today I am going to be joined by Telepurte, who is a very well-known online artist and animator. He has been around for a while now, building up a steady, huge amount of followers. I think over 1 million on Twitter and I think 2.5 million on YouTube or so.
About 2.5 on YouTube and a 1.1 on Twitter. Yeah, well, now known as X.
which is bananas. I mean, that's awesome. It's well deserved. Cranking out short animations. I mean, for a while it seems like on a daily basis. So yeah, it's a real pleasure. Thank you for joining me today.
No problem. It is my pleasure. My pleasure to be with you and to talk about it. And yeah, just happy to be here.
All right, awesome. So, today, this podcast is going to be covering mostly movies and TV and books and video games. It's just kind of an entertainment in general, theme that I'm going for. And today we've decided to talk just kind of about animation.
It's my area of expertise.
It is your area of expertise, so yeah, that's what we're going to be talking about. Maybe talk about some shows if it gets in there. But just again, what animation is for us, what it means to us, what we get out of it. Maybe why we are doing it. And just I didn't introduce myself at all. I mean, I did study a lot of animation, worked very little bit in the animation industry.
First of all, what's your name?
Well, I guess yeah. My name is Terrence Moore. That's me. Known as MTI777. That's my handle online. But we're not here to talk about me. We're here to talk more about you. So, let's just hop into it. So, animation. One thing that I'm very curious about is kind of your early memories of animation. Like, is there any moment you can remember that kind of jumps out as, when it first grabbed you or when you first got interested in animation?
First spark in animation? Oh, yeah. So there's a particular movie that I would watch a lot when I was a kid. It was Bambi 2, the second movie of Bambi. And I also watched Tarzan, but it was just during that time where I consumed a lot of Disney and a lot of, DreamWorks and that kind of movie. And I remember seeing some of the animals in Bambi 2 that were just super, super, super cute. I was like, I want to be able to draw like that. And so I tried to draw specifically the raccoons because I really liked the raccoons. And I was like, but I remember that artists are they have to be able to draw a circle to be able to draw the raccoon, right? Like that's part of the sketch. And so I remember getting printing paper and filling 5, 10, 15, 20 pages of just circles. I was absolutely enamored with the idea of okay, if I want to get good at this, I have to just really, really dial in. And so I just drew circles all day. And then later on,
were these fully written circles, or were you just kind of trying?
No, they were just circles, just straight up. Yeah, circles. I was trying to get the perfect circle, and occasionally I would be like, okay, so this is a circle. Let's try to draw a raccoon on top of the circle sometimes, but normally it would just be a circle. And then that later on just evolved, and I gained an interest in stick figures and animation later on. But we'll talk about that in a second. You were going to say?
Yeah, no. That's interesting. So Bambi 2, Tarzan, was that? I think that was probably a straight to VHS release or a straight to DVD, right? I don't think Bambi 2 came out in theaters.
No, yeah, it was.
So
either straight to VHS or straight to DVD. I remember watching it on DVD.
Okay, so but at home probably, or
yes,
or something.
Yes, at home.
Okay. Tarzan, was that in theaters?
No, it was also at home. So here's a funny story.
Okay.
I come from Colombia. Well, I come from New Zealand. I was born in New Zealand and I grew up in Colombia. And here in
Okay.
Colombia, back in the day, there are like stores on the corners of like the street that would literally make the entire business out of getting movies and ripping them onto DVDs. So they pretty much did piracy, and no one did anything about it because, Colombia is just a small country until later when they started to close down these stores that literally lived off piracy. But as we were growing up, we'd like watch the pirated movies and we were like, wow, that's pretty cool. And it was a lot cheaper than going to the movies because we are a poor family. And it was just a good thing for us to do. We just watched the movies there.
Yeah, I mean it's the bad. Yeah, piracy is bad, of course, but the soul is good. You know, I mean, having access to it and everything. I can see both sides here. You know,
Yeah,
okay.
it gave us access to things that we otherwise wouldn't have had access to, and I wouldn't be the person that I am today without
Yeah,
them.
yeah, and I mean, as a kid, I mean, if everybody's, this is just how society is working, how it's doing it, then I mean, okay,
Hmm.
that's how it goes. So no, cool. All right, so yeah, Tarzan. No, Tarzan is. I mean, Glenn Keane. I mean, we can talk about
Oh
animators
my
later,
God,
but
Glenn
yeah,
Keane,
yeah,
a legend.
oh, yeah, absolutely. Well, Tarzan also is interesting because I think that was one of the. I mean, they've been incorporating 3D into Disney movies for a while, but I remember watching a professor of mine. We watched the kind of 3D breakdown, the like pre-visualization that they did
Oh
for when he's
yes, when he's sliding on.
sliding on
Yes,
trees, Yeah, and that was pretty cool to see how they incorporated that together. So no, Tarzan on a technical level, that's a great movie. I have to be honest, I haven't seen Bambi 2. I've seen Bambi. I'm pretty sure I've seen some like extra Bambi content, but I don't know if I saw Bambi 2.
I
But
saw.
that's cool that you say it was more the appeal of the characters that got you interested in animation in the beginning, per
Yeah,
se.
and the way
For
that they
Bambi 2 at
moved.
least.
Because, yeah, there were like
Okay.
also TV shows that like had cute characters, but they just didn't move as well as they did in the movies, in the Disney movies. There was just like this magic
Oh
with
yeah.
the way that they moved. Oh, it's just so good.
Oh yeah. Oh
And
yeah.
I sort of
Uh,
like absorbed the way that they move like at a very early age. And I remember watching TV shows and being like, I could probably animate that better. As a kid, just as a kid, I was like, I could totally make that move better. I know how to make things move. And obviously I didn't
well,
really, but I kind of like
yeah.
I had the idea, right? There was just like this understanding.
The ambition.
Yeah.
The ambition. No, that's what you need. Yeah. So speaking of that, then into the next part, how old were you when you first tried animation?
10 years old. Actually, no, that's a lie.
10 years old.
I would have been 5 years old actually. So, okay, I give you two different answers, but the first answer, where I'm 5 years old, is because me and my father, we would grab Bionicles, like the Lego Bionicles, and we would do stop motion with them with
Okay.
plasticine, and we would just like make an animation. It was just like a sweet father son moment where my dad was like, "Hey, do you want to know how to do animation?" And I was like, "Oh, what's that? I really want to know."
Yeah.
And then later on, right, when I was 10 years old, it was another like sweet father son moment where my dad was like, "Yeah, you were pretty good at that. You're pretty good at like, playing with the action figures that you play with. Like you make them move really well. It's like you've got a hidden talent there." And so he was like, "Do you want to try pivot?" And I was like, "Oh, no way, pivot." And so I tried animating stick figures with pivot, and that was like, yeah, when I was 10 years old, back in 2010, 2012, around there. Yeah. And so
Okay.
from there, I just kept going.
Pivot. I'm not familiar. That's a software.
Yes, Pivot is a software where back in the day, it was a lot more rudimentary, but today it's pretty much just a stick figure animation software, which is specifically for stick figures, and it would like move the stick figures by nodes and their like elbows and their wrists and their head and all
It's
this
like
stuff.
puppeted.
Yeah, yeah, it's like 2D puppet animation.
Okay.
And
Okay. Okay.
yeah, that's pretty much it. and it's like frame by frame.
No, I
There's
think
no
I
squeaks.
watched. I researched your YouTube a little bit. I saw one of your first ones. It was titled "Bed."
Yeah.
It big figure just basically goes to bed and is not very happy.
That
I guess.
okay. That's
Okay.
actually it's a reflection of my life during that time, because whenever we would just be doing a thing in a day, um it was called our afternoon rest, our afternoon sleep. Our parents would make us go to bed at like 12 o'clock, between 12 and 3 kind of thing. Like, you have to go to bed, you have to take a nap, because otherwise you're going to be in a bad mood and then everyone's going to have a bad time. So they send us to bed even if we were like playing games, or even if we were like, having fun.
Wide awake. Yeah.
Yeah, oh, time to go to bed. So I'd be like, I don't want to go to bed. And yeah, it was one of those things that was just, part of our childhood. And then it made its way into my animations as I was making them even at that time.
Nice. So when you started to break away then from stick figure, like what was your next software or your next approach? Like technically, what was the next step then after the pivot in stick figures?
Oh, so after Pivot, I sort of I pivoted into, I went into
Uh,
Easy Tunes.
what you did?
Easy Tunes is another program which was just black and white, right? A pixel could either be black or it could be white, and it was like low resolution pixel art. And there were like a lot of animators that were starting to use Easy Tunes, and they made some really, really cool stuff. But I was still doing stick figures then, and this was 2013 kind of thing. And then I pivoted over to Macromedia Flash, Flash 8, and I started to work in that. But I was still doing stick figures for a while until 2014, when I figured that I wanted to animate more than stick figures. But I didn't know how to draw. And I had the realization that, like, oh, I'm trying to animate, but I can't really draw when I'm trying to animate. And so I was limited by how much I could draw. So I stopped animating, and then I started to grind drawing. And I was just kind of
Yeah,
doing it.
there's like a 3 or 4 break on your YouTube I saw, in between posts. So it seems like, yeah, you took a little hiatus there.
Yeah. So the channel, my dad made the channel for me back when it was 2010. And he called the channel, at first it was Stickies One, because, little stick figures, wee little sticks, stickies. So yeah, that's how he named the channel first. And later on, when I was like, I'm gonna make a career out of this, I asked my dad, hey, do you still have like the password for this such channel? And he was like, oh yeah, this is all this information. And then he handed it over me, and then I like did the whole change, and like I changed the username, and then I just started uploading my own stuff. But that didn't happen until like 2020, much later. So let's go back to 2014, when I was just drawing as a hobby.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was drawing as a hobby, and then in 2016, I turned 18 years old. And that's when I had a little freak out moment. I was like, holy moly. Everyone else of my friends, they're like starting their career in university. They know what they want to do in life. And I was just like, I'm playing video games all day, doing nothing with my life. What am I doing? What am I going to do? And so I took a moment, and I was like, okay, what am I good at? What am I just sort of okay at? And I saw that I was good at piano, and I was good at drawing. And so I thought, I love music too much to make it into a career that I have to do no matter what, even when I'm not feeling like it. But I'm okay with sacrificing drawing to that fate. I'm okay with sacrificing drawing to making it my career, right? So,
Wow. Can I just say that's a very mature thing as somebody. I mean, you've revealed your age now. Yeah, I'm 40 years old. I just turned 40 this year.
all right, let's go. 40 years young.
Yeah, no, but I just want to say that is a very mature thing that you just said, to say that I love something so much that I don't want to force myself to do it and go down that path where to pay the rent, I have to do that, where it can become a chore and it can become something that you don't want to do. So no, that's I just wanted to say kudos, man. That's a really at that age to make that kind of a call. That's very impressive.
Well, it wasn't entirely me. Like, I also was very well informed by my parents because my dad, he is also an artist and he knew, right? And he would give me that advice. He was saying that, like, once you choose something as your career, you're going to have to do it every day, whether you like it or not. And you're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days, no matter how much you love something. So that little morsel of wisdom was exactly what
Great.
allowed me to make that decision. And so in 2006, that was 2016, yeah. And I decided to make it my career. And I started to draw every day as much as I possibly could. I was grinding it as much as possible. There were some days that I was like drawing up to 21 pages full of sketches. And the average was like 7 pages a day of drawings. And I was just grinding them out like they were like, yeah, like it was just my job. But it wasn't my job yet. I was taking that period of time almost as if it was, my study time, as if
Mhm.
I was in university, as if I was, I don't know, as if I was a soldier, right? Like I have to do it no matter what.
Mhm.
So after that, it came around to 2018. I had 2 years of just this daily study, working as hard as possible. And I had the guidance and some help from an artist called Sycra. And he was a very great help for me because he would first of all give me encouragement to continue going forwards, and he would also like answer my questions if I had any. And he also has a YouTube channel which is full of art tutorials that are super super helpful. So I just like I'd eat his knowledge up, and reading books as
Well,
well.
so what was his name one more time?
Sycra, yeah, Sycra, Sycra. And
Okay.
yeah, he's still around today, still doing what he does. He does pretty cool stuff. Um, and then 2018.
And at this point, 2018, you were in Zeta because I think I joined in 2017.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's also not at the same time.
Yeah. So in 2018 was when I started to say, hey, what if I combine my old talent of animating, like I was always pretty good at moving things, and I start to combine it with my newfound talent of drawing. And I was like,
Oh,
that caveman moment discovering fire. It was like just magic. And I just
bing, the light bulb.
yeah. So I uploaded an animation of a guy twirling a pistol around, and I was like, yeah, this is just a random animation. But then Kazuma, the leader, the owner of ZX, he saw me, yeah, and he was like, yo, this guy's pretty cool. Let's get him in here. Let's invite him. And so, yeah, I got in there, and then from there was the daily animation challenges, which was really fun, where we would just make a list of themes, and then we would all vote on the themes, and we would just give ourselves an hour to animate those themes. And yeah, it was just
I
like,
remember you were me and Guz, we did one time.
yeah,
The breaking. I did it was slice was the theme, slice or break or something. I still have that one though. Yeah, I did the sword chopping through like a piece of wood or block or something.
yeah, they're all still there.
Yeah, that was
I still have all of them.
fun.
It was fun. I really enjoyed that time. That was like a golden age in my life when it comes to like the learning apprenticeship of animation. And then eventually October of 2018 came around, and I was like, I'm animating fairly regularly, but what if I take Inktober? Because back in the day, that was a thing. Inktober before,
Oh yeah,
it went through its falling through and getting canceled and whatever. I don't know what really happened there. But
I think
Inktober
it's
was
sitting around, but it evolved. But yeah,
yes,
the old school Inktober. Yeah.
the old school Inktober. I was like, everyone else is doing ink drawings, but what if I do ink style animations? And so this is when I really started to post a lot on Twitter, where I would post daily for the month of October. And then a friend, Mr. Hyun from Hyun's Dojo, he was like, oh, that's that's pretty cool. If you finish this month, I'll give you $100, which honestly, $100 is not that much. But for me, it was like, it was a token. It was a medallion of belief, right? The
Yeah.
support of a friend.
More than 100. Yeah. Yeah.
So I worked my butt off and I learned how to like go through with something, even if it burnt me out, even if I was completely tired. And then that was that for 2018. And I pretty much just sort of cruised and coasted around, just drawing whatever, whenever for the year of 2019, except I did it again in 2019. And I did the Inktober thing. And this is when my Twitter Twitter page, sorry, started to pick up a little bit. And by the start of 2020, I had like 1,200 followers or so. And then that's when I said, well, I did it for a month. What if I do it for a year? And so, yeah, once I put that idea up to my buddy Hyun, he was like, oh, if you do that, I'll give you 1,000 buckaroos. And so
Wow.
I was like, holy moly, I got it. I just got it. And so I went there and I started to animate every day. And January goes by, it's like 1 month. Fine, I could do it. February goes by, 2 months, easy. 3 months, 4 months, 5, 6, 7. And yeah, of course, there were days where I was like, I kind of want to give up, but you know, my page is getting lots of followers. I'm actually starting to get monetary returns from this. And you know, like for a start, I was like, if I make $400 a month, I can live off that here in Colombia. But then I started to make like $800. It's like, oh, that's pretty good. And like 1,200. I was like, oh, it's going up and up and up. I was like, there's no way that all this is happening. And then I just started to become like a sensation on the internet. Like my animations sometimes would go viral and they just become like memes or something. And it's like, wow, far out. All this is just happening so fast. And I'm just gonna like shut down and leave it on the side and focus on animating. And I just animated. So it's pretty much kind of like
That's
oh, sorry. Go ahead.
no, I was just saying that's an awesome journey. I mean, thank you for sharing. That's really cool.
It's pretty much, it took more time than I thought it would, but do we still have time to talk about other things?
Of course, I've got time. If you got time, I got time.
I got time.
Very light schedule.
Yes.
Okay, there we go. Well, with all that talk, I was just curious, what kind of hardware are you working with? Is it like a sketch tablet? Do you have an interactive display? Like back in the day when you were first getting it, like when you were, I guess, like mid-teens or whatever, like what was your hardware? What was your setup like?
Okay, so my setup was majorly on just a gaming computer. A gaming computer that costed like $1,000 or so. That's like one of the things that I got first. And then the tablet that I was using was Wacom Cintiq 13 HD, which is the same one that I have today. And I bought it second hand off my buddy, well, none other than the Hyun. He's actually more than a buddy for me because he like really inspired me because he was one of the biggest stick figure animators back in the day, like in 2012 to 2015. He was like one of the legends that I'd always look up to. And I remember like I would play his animations and I'd replay them and replay them and replay them. And I'd like pause them and look at them frame by frame. And yeah, I was just like
stunning.
Enamored. I was enamored with his work and I still am. I think he's an amazing animator. And so I wanted to become his friend. And, you know, I just, at some point when I heard that he was like, yeah, I have this tablet that I don't really use. I used to use it. I was like, oh, I need it. I need it right now.
Please.
And so I bought it off him and I bought it off him pretty cheap too. And when I got it, like when it came in the mail, I was like, oh, the holy tablet that had been touched by the hands of gods. And so I laid it down onto the desk, and I was like, I'm gonna animate something. And then I was like, I have to make this one of the most legendary tablets as well, by being like one of the legends that touched it if I can. Like, I don't know if I could even call myself a legend, but I want to be a legend that touched this tablet.
You're getting, I think you're getting to that status. So it's you're on your way. So the whole time it's been using a sketch tablet. Like, have you ever done pencil and paper, or have you used like interactive display at all?
No, not really. It's just a normal tablet that I use as a normal tablet. Like, I look forwards. But when it comes to like drawing, I would draw on pencil and paper. I've never animated on pencil and paper. It's just too much work, not effective, not efficient. So it's just I don't know. I don't like doing it. Um, but I do like sketching and drawing on paper.
Aesthetically, I love the look of pencil and paper animation. Efficiency, though, yeah, no. I mean, just shooting, if you have 100 frames and you have to capture that, like, that's ridiculous.
That's
And
100 photos you have to take.
exactly. And having the ability to scrub, in animation software that you can, go back and forth over 30 frames, and see the arcs and see everything. It's so much easier than when you do it on pencil and paper, because pencil and paper, you have to shoot it and then make your corrections and shoot it again and make your, it's not as efficient. I think it looks beautiful, but it's just not it's not as efficient.
Yeah, and it's not liable. It's not viable. If you're like trying to do a daily animation, because it's a whole week's
Yeah.
work kind of thing.
Mhm.
It's the kind of work that you hand off to a studio, and that the studio does, and then the studio works together. A studio of like 40 to 50 to 100 people working together, like they did in Disney, right? I couldn't afford that.
No, but okay. No, I was just curious what how you were producing the animations. So this was all, so you didn't go to school for anything, though, right? This is all self-taught.
Yeah, this is all self-taught.
Okay. I mean, you said you've had some mentors and everything like that, but I mean, you didn't have an actual professor or teacher anywhere. Like, this is all
No,
you making it, on your own, and branching out, and getting in touch with other animators, and things like that, right?
yeah, so this was actually one of the important lessons that I learned from Psychra, is that a lot of the material that he had out there, or like the message, like the underlying message was, you don't need to go to school to learn how to do art, right? And he would do interviews and podcasts with other respectable artists, and he'd like ask them about how they learned their stuff. And they're like, the general consensus was like, yeah, I didn't really need to go to school. And the ones that did go to school, they're like, oh man, don't go to school. You get a ton of debt and you don't learn as much as if you were to learn on your own. And that was the big message that I learned. So it's like, holy moly, I'm not going to go to school. I'm sorry, but and my mother was worried because she wanted me to go to school. She wanted me to get a degree, a diploma. But I was like, no, mom, the whole reason that you want a diploma in a normal job is so that people believe that you can do the job. But in art and animation, that's your portfolio. How do you get a portfolio?
It's true.
You do the work. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I have mixed feelings on that. I mean, I can totally see both sides and agree. I mean, I did get a lot of debt in school, which was horrible. But I did learn a lot, like, because I was going in, as from a totally traditional point of view, or traditional artist, into learning the whole digital thing and all that. And yes, I probably could have done it on my own and everything, but still, I do believe there were some valuable lessons that I learned. I trained under, Professor Troy Gustafson, who worked at Disney, and Professor Weber, and Professor Schindler. I mean, there was a lot of professors that do
Weber and Schindler is
some pretty
crazy.
interesting things.
Wow.
Yeah, but I mean, yeah, Professor Brian Schindler, he was with WB Animation for a while, and Weber, yeah, was Disney, and Gustafson, they were Disney. And so, I mean, Jancy, also Professor Jancy, there were a lot of professors that can teach you some pretty cool stuff. That, yeah, I mean, you're branching out to these other artists, they can teach you things as well, of course. But I don't know, I can't. totally walk away from, or, say it's totally not worth it. There is some back and forth there. I mean, the debt, like that's why I usually say, if you can financially do it,
Yeah,
then
you
yeah,
can.
do it. If you're not going to come out with a bunch of debt, not just for the, diploma, the piece of paper, but there are a lot of important lessons that you can learn, I guess. That's
Definitely.
what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do agree.
Yeah.
I do
Yeah.
agree. Definitely.
If you have six figures of debt to do it, then yeah, no, probably not.
No, no. And I was like
Next.
hearing stories of people that actually did get into like the six figures of debt. And I was like, oh God, I'm so
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah. Well, especially as unpredictable and the lack of guarantee in the art world. I mean, there's a lot of
Yeah,
competition out there.
yeah.
So when you come out with that much debt, and if you're going to be just an animator starting at the bottom of the ladder, that doesn't pay that much. Like you're going to be paying back for a long time.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and you don't know that you're actually going to be an animator. I mean, that's kind of like my story. Because like I got a degree in art, and then I didn't find any work in art. Started teaching in Korea. Went back to the U.S. Went back to school for animation at SCAD, at Savannah College of Art and Design. And finished that, and thought, all right, I'm going to be an animator. Here we go, and basically just did freelance work a little bit, and I never got a studio job, never, got into it. And so there was this kind of, I don't want to say crippling, but there was like some
All that
pressure that
pain.
followed with that. Yeah, well, just, I put so much time and effort into it, and I didn't. It just, you feel like a failure. Basically, I felt like a failure that I didn't, become an animator in the studio. It took me a long time to realize that I can still be an animator even if I'm not, in a studio.
Yes.
And I can still, so now it's I finally, because I kept going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth between feeling like a failure, and then I can still do this, and then feel like a failure, I can still do this. So I finally hit an equilibrium where I'm happy. I don't animate every day. I kind of have a cycle for creativity. Like sometimes I'm writing, sometimes I'm animating, sometimes I'm painting. It's just whatever strikes me at that time, and I can still scratch that creative itch with animation, and I learned a lot. I can still, I feel that I am a good animator, but that was something that I struggled with personally for a while, and that a lot of that was probably the whole path that I went down with going to school.
Hmm. Well, that's good to know. I thank you for telling me about it.
Yeah, just to get that out there. But again, I don't want to say that I'm not totally sour about going back to school. I still, it was a good experience overall. So that
Hmm.
was nice. But
Yeah.
back to I was trying to get into talk about how you're all self-taught. Like, I mean, did you uh read any books, or did you like 12 principles of animation? I mean, was there anything that you studied on your own that
Yes.
would have
Yes.
studied in school, or
So, um,
yeah.
I've never really, okay, I didn't go to school, so I can't really make the comparison as such, but the way that I did learn is YouTube videos and books. So the books that I would read are like The Animator Survival Kit, the 12 Principles of
Oh, of course,
Animation.
I have that right next to me. Well,
Yeah, same here.
but
It's there, right there. It's the Animator's Bible. Um,
mhm.
and I would just also watch animations on YouTube. Particularly ones by Alan Becker, because he had really, really good breakdowns of what the 12 principles of animation were, which is great. It's very good. Anytime someone asks me, so how do you get good at animation? I just send them that that crash course pretty much. It's like a 20-minute video
That
that explains it.
I I mean, people always ask that question, like
Yeah,
whenever there's an interview with famous names, how did you get so good? It's like, oh, just just look at every other time that question has been asked and just follow that answer. Because
practice,
yeah, practice,
practice,
practice, practice, practice.
practice.
Yeah, yeah. Don't ask dumb questions. Go come to practice.
Okay, but
But
that's
yeah, sorry.
complicated, right? So when you just say practice, right, that also it sounds simple, but there's a lot more that goes into it because you have to have the right mindsets that allow you to practice. Like if you don't believe in why you should practice, or you don't have the right mindset, right? Like you're looking at the results instead of the process, um, then you're gonna like stifle yourself and you're gonna have a really hard time practicing and doing the amount of work that's necessary to get good, right? Like if you're only doing like 10 drawings a month, you're not gonna get good.
True. No. Yeah, no, I shouldn't have said that so harsh probably, but I just mean that, it seems like you see that question a lot, people asking
Yeah.
talented animators and artists, and the answers are usually pretty similar as well. But no, that's definitely a good point that you make about practice. So just back to the 12 principles then, which like when I watch your animations, the ones that jump out at me first are solid drawing, appeal, timing, squash and stretch, and exaggeration. When I watch your stuff, those are kind of the first ones that pop out at me. I'm just curious, were there any that you felt like you had more trouble with, or that were easier for you, or yeah, just kind of your interpretation of the 12 principles and your work?
Well, they all have their challenges for like understanding them, right, and getting them down pat. But generally, I feel as the like solid drawing and appeal is something that has more to do with the drawing itself, not so much the movement or the animation, right? And
Well, yeah,
I'm along the belief that there's only like maybe three to five principles of the 12 principles that are actually having to do with movement itself and that are actually useful for making things move properly. Because you can be a really good animator and you can focus on the wrong principles first and you still won't be, or like a really good artist, you won't be a good animator if you don't focus on the right principles. So the right principles that I would definitely recommend focusing on is, first of all, easing. Second of all, I think it is arcs, and third, overlapping and follow through, and fourth, anticipation, fifth, timing. So with those five,
okay.
you will absolutely be able to like move anything perfectly. Like once you get the full mastery
Can't
of
make it
those
look
five,
realistic.
yeah, you don't actually need to know any of the other principles of animation to make things move well. You don't need squash and stretch. You don't really need the appeal. You don't need like everything else. Yes, they're good to have. Don't get me wrong, but they're not as good as like the first five that I mentioned.
It's funny, that reminds me at SCAD, Professor Troy and Professor Weber, they were always, Professor Troy was a effects animator at Disney, and Professor Weber was a character animator. And they used to always go back and forth about squash and stretch. Because like when you took Professor Troy's principles animation class, the bouncing ball, he would be very clear there's only the first impact has a squash in the ball. Every other one, he was like, no. And then you see Professor Weber's students, and theirs are like squashing and stretching all over, like even at the top of the bounce, it's like all over. And so Professor Troy, he was very adamant about squash and stretch with realistic materials, and then the character animators usually were a lot more, had a lot more squash and stretch going on. So that just reminded me of that. They always had a playful back and forth there.
A little banter going on. Yeah. But when you think about it, right, like animation is just the simulation of physics through time, through your drawings, right? And so what are the most important things in physics? Acceleration. What it deals with acceleration? Easing and arcs.
Ease in and out, yeah.
And also the overlapping and follow through, which is like it's things that are connected to the origin of movement that are like dragging behind and following through. But the rest of it
is all momentum. Yeah.
It's all momentum and it's all inertia. It's all acceleration and deceleration. So that's what the timing and easing and all that has to do with it.
Yeah. Are you what about straight ahead and pose to pose? Where do you stand with those principles?
Oh, okay. So straight ahead and pose to pose. Straight ahead is good for when you want like effects. They're good for stick figures. They're good for like acrobatics and stuff like that. Stuff that you want to be more smooth, that you want to be like more free. But you do like get more freedom for the cost of control. which is sometimes undesirable when you're trying to like have things be exactly as you want. And pose to pose is a lot more controlled, and it's also a lot easier when you have detailed models, like the drawings, the things that you're drawing. We call them models. So if you have really detailed models like in anime, pose to pose is the way to go, because you can just get one line to the next. No problem without like any
Oh, is that-
deformations.
So are you? That's why I'm sorry. I have a follow up question. Then, so I'm asking, in your work, are you more pose to pose then, or do you deal with straight ahead at all?
Whatever I'm feeling that day, usually it's pose to pose.
Okay, okay. I'm strictly straight ahead. I've had a lot of trouble with pose to pose. I mean, I understand how to do it, and everything, but
Okay,
uh,
I'm actually gonna tell you a
usually
secret.
for
Gonna let you in on a
what's the
secret.
secret?
I actually do a little bit of
Please.
both. So the keyframes, I do it straight ahead. And then those keyframes are pretty much the pose to pose for the in-betweens. So it's actually a little bit of
That's
both.
kind of that's when I got in touch with Bahi JD years ago, and I was asking him about the straight ahead pose to pose, and that's kind of like what he said too. He said most of the stuff he does is just straight ahead, unless it's very slow motion or something. Or he said, or he will, like you said, kind of straight ahead the keys and then go through and do pose to pose for all that. So, yeah, that's cool.
That's the way to go.
Um, it is the way to go. So what either character or part of a character or whatever, what is there anything that you would say is the most difficult thing to animate? You know, like people might say hands or, or feet or hair or something. I don't know. What is there anything that you think, oh no, I have to animate this? Anything that's daunting for you?
Um, I don't think there's anything that isn't daunting, but I'm reminded of a quote that I don't remember who said it, but it went along the lines of this: if you are able to draw a woman, then you're able to draw anything, because making an attractive woman is one of the hardest things possible. So yeah,
Okay.
I'd say women are pretty hard. Drawing women are pretty hard because they also entail hands, they entail noses, they entail eyes, they entail everything that you might have a hell of a life animating. They have all of it. They have hair, they have clothing, they have all the hard things that you can think of.
Yeah, that is very true. Very true.
Another thing,
Well,
my
I'm kind of
oh yeah.
running out on my questions here. I think we've covered a lot of our stuff that we wanted. We didn't get into the video games or
Oh yeah, no, no
or
problem.
that. But we are, yeah, I think 45 minutes now. I think that's a pretty good chunk of time.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Maybe we can do a follow up another time and explore some of these things a little bit more. But
I'm down.
I think for today, I feel pretty good. I think we got a lot. We covered a lot here.
Yes, sir.
That was pretty awesome, man. I think that was pretty good. What do
Yeah,
you think?
see, it's not that bad. It's literally just having a conversation with a buddy and talking about random stuff.